So we just finished a single sugar tong, but then we realized that the doctor ordered a double sugar tong. So we're going to show you how to expand your single sugar tong into a double. The double sugar tong starts 2 to 3 inches below the crease of the armpit down here. It wraps all the way around the elbow, and then we'll come up this surface of the arm to almost the top of the deltoid here. So what we're going to do, since we've already got our nice long stockinette, we're going to make sure that we don't have any wrinkles here. We're going to ensure that our elbow of the single sugar tong still looks good, so it's nice and flush. We just went ahead and taped the bias off here. If you know you're doing a single and then a double sugar tong, you actually don't need to bias until the very end of the application of both splints. You can use just a piece of web roll here and there to hold the first splint on while you're forming the second. But if you'd rather do bias and then just leave a little room for the next section of the splint, you can do that as well. So we're going to go ahead and measure for the second sugar tong, starting right where we said we would at this elbow, or excuse me, at the armpit, wrapping all the way around the elbow, nearly to the top of the deltoid. It's important to measure after you've got the single sugar tong on, because once all this extra material is on, you'll often find that you cut your splint a little short if you try to measure before. Got our splint material cut. We'll need to finish the ends of the fiberglass, again preventing any fiberglass splinters. You definitely wouldn't want a fiberglass splinter anywhere on your body, let alone your armpit. So we need to be absolutely sure that every splint we're protecting our patient's skin to the best of our ability. So we'll roll those fiberglass ends in. People do like to use gloves when we're handling the interior part of the fiberglass because it's very sticky, and that resin will stick to your trauma shears, it'll stick to your fingers. So you want to keep that in mind. We've folded it in, we've pressed this surface against itself, so it's sticking to itself inside, but we won't have any remaining splinters out on the top. We're going to double check our measurement here. So nice and high into this armpit area without going absolutely all the way into the armpit, and then to this top surface of the deltoid. I actually think we cut a little long here, so we would want to maybe roll back an inch or so that we're to the top of the deltoid, but we're not fully encompassing it. We still want to have enough stockinette that we can roll it over and finish that edge nicely. Something else you need to look at is where our bias is. So we had to unroll the bias just a little bit. We want to make sure that this is pulled all the way up so that this side of the splint is also flush with this end of the elbow, same as we did for that single sugar tong. So nowhere on the elbow should we have any major excess hanging off. We don't want to create a cup here. So no cupping here. And make sure that everything is nice and smooth. We'll have nice, round, even corners. So we can go ahead and roll the stockinette over the top here. And then we've discussed before, but we'll use web roll to kind of help ourselves out. So accidentally skipped a step. We'll need to get some padding before we actually attach that splint. So we've double checked our measurement. We already padded up about an inch over where the first sugar tong was placed. But we'll go ahead and just complete that padding, our 3 layers, over the upper arm. Nice and high. Make sure that your patient's not too ticklish. Once you've finished your 3 layers, we can go ahead and apply our splint. any major wrinkling, but this outer layer of stockinette isn't nearly as critical as that inner layer was. So we've prevented any major wrinkling. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this original bias off so that we can start fresh and make sure that we aren't having any bunching or major overlap. And we'll just do one more double check that everything is nice and flush and smooth, so when we go to put this on, we have a nice even elbow surface on both sides. So we'll start where that original bias ended, give it maybe a quick overlap, and then I'll actually come across this interior surface of the elbow here and secure the back of that before we start securing the elbow. Now, wrapping bias over the elbow is a little tricky because it's very easy to get lots of bunching, especially on this inside angle. So take your time, nice and slow. We need all of these surfaces covered, but this isn't a rush. Unfortunately, our bias does have to be a little bit thicker here to make sure that we've gotten all of these aspects covered, but we can still prevent wrinkling. One reason that we don't do super thick bias anywhere else is to reduce the amount of heat coming from a splint. We'll finish our bias on the top here, making sure to come all the way up to capture those rolled ends of stockinette. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and cut the bias, make sure that our elbow looks good, the rest of our sugar tong looks good, and that's the completed double sugar tong.